And it just started raining harder, as if my glasses weren't messed up enough. This is Living History Footnotes for the Cheltenham Badlands episode. Oh, Jesus Christ. If you haven't seen the main episode yet, please check it out first. I will link it in the description. In today's video, we're going to learn more about the Queenston Formation in the area. I'll tell you some more information about the Cooper family, the last people to own the Badlands, and we'll see some erosion in action at the Badlands site. All that and more, so provided I don't slip on the ice any more than I already have, let's get into it. We'll start off with this week's featured comment, which comes from a Reddit user named 𝗏𝗡𝗏. They write, "Back when you could walk there, I picked up 2 full garbage bags of trash from there." Thank you very much for that comment, and I think it really speaks to why some of these mitigation measures were so badly needed at the Badlands site. There was another Reddit comment as well from somebody who was very pleased to see the fences and the designated trails going up, as well as the parking area. And I thought that was interesting because often you see comments from people that are the loudest complaining about losing their access to something that they once had. So I thought it was interesting to have that perspective of somebody who recognized how much of an impact in a positive way those mitigation measures could have. As 𝗏𝗏𝗱𝗏 told us, the Queenston Formation stretches from about Georgian Bay right through to New York State around the escarpment. And there are other places besides the Badlands where that shale bedrock has come to the surface. I mentioned in a Footnotes episode a little while back that one of my favorite time-wasting activities when I have more important things to do is wasting time looking at satellite maps, and I decided to do that at some point around the Cheltenham Badlands area, and I actually found quite a few small patches of Badlands in other places. They're not nearly as big or as spectacular as the Badlands, but there are quite a lot of examples, such as this one that you see here, which is on the smaller side. However, I did actually come across some formations that were quite notable. Here's a clip that I ended up cutting from the main episode. The Cheltenham Badlands are by far the biggest and most spectacular example of badlands in this region, but they're not the only ones. The thin soil issue is fairly common throughout this region, and if you know the right places to look, you can find small patches of badlands in other areas, such as this one in an undisclosed and evidently private location. I'm not going to give any specific location information because these places are private property, and like we heard in the main episode, these landforms are quite fragile, so it would be best if we can minimize the amount of human impact that can happen. However, I know a lot of you out there are curious like me, so if you do want to go in search of these, I guess, unincorporated badland sites and view them from a respectable distance, maybe on a public road, I'll give you a hint. You'll do well if you look around places that are named after features related to the bedrock. Because the Queenston Shale is so widespread and pretty accessible just below the soil surface, it actually sparked a major industry in the Cheltenham area. Here's another deleted clip from the main episode that talks a little bit about that. Shale has a lot of clay in it, and that helped to start a new industry in this area. The buildings behind me are part of the abandoned Cheltenham brickworks near the appropriately named town of 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏. I'll save that story for another day. Yeah, these notes are already a train wreck. Yikes. Okay, up next we're going to learn a bit more about the Cooper family, the last family that owned the Badlands. As we heard in the main episode, Russell Cooper was the last owner, and he was actually very involved with both heritage preservation and with journalism. Russell was a photographer, and he took many notable photos during his career, working for papers like the Brampton Conservator and the Toronto Telegram. He was also the manager of Black Creek Pioneer Village for a few decades, and he's contributed a huge photo collection to the Peel archives. Now, in case the world's #1 Bill Davis fan Steve Paikin happens to be watching this video, Russ was also, I believe, a cousin of the future premier, and when he ran to become the MPP for Peel for the very first time, Russ was actually his campaign manager and helped him get elected despite a fairly difficult political climate at the time for the Conservative Party. Rowena Cooper, who we met in the main episode, is an important figure in local history as well. She was president of the Ontario Historical Society, and she worked for many years at the Peel Archives. Rowena is also an author, and she's been very helpful in getting some of the information that I needed for this video together, as well as some important personal perspectives. So Rowena, thank you very much again for your contributions to this project. And while I'm throwing around some thanks here, I want to give a very special shout out to Nick Moreau at the Peel Archives. He's been a big supporter of Living History since before day one. He actually helped me out with our very first episode about the Horseshoe Hill train disaster, helped me get into contact with some of the right people and connect me with some visuals. And Nick did the same thing for this episode too. He went into the archives and found some great shots that I was able to use in the main episode. In fact, all of that background information about Russell Cooper that I just shared a moment ago, that all came from Nick directly. So again, Nick, thank you so very much for your support with the series, and I hope that we can keep this going and have a chance to work together on more projects in the future. The last thing I want to talk about for today is erosion. That was the whole point of the main episode, is that erosion is causing these badlands to wear away. Now, this is a natural process because this particular landform is just very soft. However, all the footsteps of all the people coming to see it was really speeding that process up. I want to show you what happens as the badlands wear away. This is some of the drone footage that I got from the Ontario Heritage Trust. Again, thank you for that, because drone flying is not allowed at the site. I want you to look near the bottom of the hummocks. Do you see the little valleys between the red ridges that look like they're sort of full of sludge? Well, when water gets into the formation, it wears down the tops of the hills, and all of that wearing away settles down into those valleys. And this is especially bad during freeze-thaw cycles and when there's lots of foot traffic and it breaks up the surface. But there's also another element to the erosion. Since a lot of it is made up of clay, it's very sticky, and when people walk around on the grounds in the area, it can actually get stuck to their shoes and carried away off the site. So that is a major, major contribution where at least when the stuff is getting worn away into the valleys, it's still there, but a lot of people have tracked a lot of the clay away from the site over the years. And actually, I heard a story from Rowena, which was that people would come to the property and grab some of the clay because it was excellent for use in pottery, as you would have learned earlier in this episode. So yeah, definitely a lot of forces at play with the erosion here. And basically what will happen over time when enough of that erosion takes place is the badlands will lose their characteristic shape with all of the hummocks and the valleys, and it'll just become kind of this sea of red nothingness. One last part I'd like to add on about the erosion file is that Joe Deloge mentioned in the main episode that he hasn't been able to get back to the site for a number of years since before all of those mitigation things like the specific trails, the fencing, and the boardwalk were put in. Since my video came out, Joe has actually been contacted by the Ontario Heritage Trust, who say they want him to come back and continue the erosion studies on the property. So, Living History is getting results. I love to see it. And that'll do it for this week's episode of Living History Footnotes about the Cheltenham Badlands. Just like with all the other places that we visited in this series, I encourage you to visit the Badlands for yourself to see this natural process in action. But the Badlands are closed in the winter. You can only visit them during the warm months. I believe you can actually hike through the property if you're taking the Bruce Trail, but there isn't any legal on-street parking located close to the Badlands itself. So while you can do that, either plan to get dropped off or prepare for a fairly long hike because you can't park very close to the site. And also, when you do want to visit the Badlands during the open season, you do need a reservation, so be sure that you plan your trip ahead. All that said though, when you do visit the Badlands, be sure to take a photo, tag me on Instagram. My account is livinghistoryca, and use hashtag livinghistoryca as well, just so I have a better chance of seeing it. I actually got a photo this week from a Living History viewer who had just visited the Bracebridge Octagon House, the Henry Bird House, so that was really cool to see. I'm glad you made it out that way. Next week, we're going to be fairly deep into the holiday season, and I'm not going to have a new video for you. I'm taking a little bit of a breather, so I want to say have a very merry 𝗂𝗃 𝗂𝗃 to all who celebrate. I'll be seeing you again in January. Until then, be well.